Hey everyone, you know what's better than one movie about a funny green ogre? Two of them. Now I know what you're thinking. Well, the first one was so funny and great. How could they top it? Well, believe it or not, they fucking did. And here's how. So we get a similar opening with a reading from a fairy tale book, this time narrated by the guy who plays Prince Charming. You know, the guy who was supposed to marry Fiona. And once he climbs to the highest room in the tallest tower, he finally arrives at a wolf looking at pig porn.
What?
Okay. Well, that's definitely not what he was expecting. Once the scene ends, it kicks things off with another strong start showing us Shrek and Fiona's honeymoon.
In the fires of Mount Doom, the Dark Lord Sauron forged in secret a master ring to control all others. One ring to rule them all.
They play another great song, Accidentally in Love, and at the end of the montage, they finally return to the swamp. So Shrek and Fiona come home to be annoyed by Donkey, when all they want to do is clearly Shrek each other. But then they are invited to far, far away to be blessed as a part of the royal family. They do a quick but decent job of the beginning portion, and then it starts to get more in depth. They do a good job editing the dialogue between Shrek and Fiona's conversation and the King and Queen's conversation when they're meeting for the first time on the red carpet.
Was that a racist baby?
After the dinner fiasco, Fiona's fairy godmother comes down and meets her and Shrek. Shrek and Fiona still continue to argue and eventually go to bed angry, which I've heard you're not supposed to do. I think even this far into the movie, we can already see so much more relatable and in-depth concepts that Shrek is struggling with. Shrek struggles with feeling out of place and rejected by society when he arrives in Far, Far Away. He's insecure about how he is and worries about making a good first impression to his in-laws. Even that night, Shrek is finding it difficult to sleep and feeling out of place here in this big castle when he's just used to his swamp. Later, we see the fairy godmother meet with the king. She takes him away on a flying car ride and forces him to try and get rid of Shrek, so her son, Prince Charming, can marry Fiona like they intended. Apparently, the king has made a deal with the fairy godmother a long time ago, and now she threatens to take away his happily ever after if he doesn't do as she wishes. And oddly enough, the antagonist is the fairy godmother, which is a very extremely different change to how that role usually is in fairy tales. I think it's a unique and interesting idea to have the antagonist's motive for the movie to forcefully make it into a traditional fairy tale story. So the king heads to a bar called the Poison Apple where he makes a deal with a hitman to kill Shrek. This is where we're introduced to another new character, Puss in Boots, an orange cat who can fight, and I think they do a good job of showcasing cat-like personality. After Puss in Boots attacks Shrek and Donkey kicks him in the nuts, they then confront him and Puss in Boots tells him he was hired by the king. They do give us the iconic cat eye scene and it's still honestly pretty damn cute. So Puss in Boots tags along with them and they find Fairy Godmother's potion factory. They sneak in and end up stealing a happily ever after potion. They manage to escape and Shrek and Donkey both drink the potion. We have a solid character moment where we see that as much as Shrek loves how his life is, he loves Fiona more and is willing to change his life for her and try to make her happy. In the morning, Shrek and Fiona wake up as humans and Donkey arrives as a noble steed. Shrek then runs back to the kingdom, but Prince Charming is there posing as human Shrek. With Shrek feeling depressed that Fiona's better off without him, he goes to the Poison Apple with Donkey and Puss. Shrek sees the king working with the fairy godmother, and she threatens to take away the king's happily ever after again if he doesn't give Fiona a love potion. Shrek gets caught watching them, and they're chased down and put in prison. The fairy tale creatures thankfully see them on TV and go to their rescue. As they get ready for the royal ball, Fiona talks with her dad, and she says that this isn't the Shrek she fell in love with. The king purposefully gives her the wrong tea so she won't take the potion. Pinocchio and Gingy save Shrek, and he comes up with a plan to get Fiona back before kissing Prince Charming. The final part of this movie goes so hard and it's fucking phenomenal. It's a cover of I Need a Hero, and it's honest to God way better than the original. This is the only version that I think of, and I heard the original a few years ago and actively hated it because I was comparing it to Shrek fucking 2. I think in the scene they do a good job of making the giant gingerbread man a surprise, and I don't even know how you come up with the idea of a giant gingerbread man storming to a castle to stop an evil fairy godmother, but they did it and they pulled it off perfectly. I mean, unfortunately, he doesn't last long, but it's still so cool, and he's genuinely kind of terrifying.
Not the gumdrop, but...
After clearly the best scene in the entire movie of Shrek and his friends with a giant gingerbread man storming and pushing their way to the castle, Shrek finally arrives to stop the kiss between Charming and Fiona. Shrek and his friends try and get the magic wand away from Fairy Godmother, but unfortunately don't succeed. And as Fairy Godmother shoots lightning at Shrek and Fiona, the king heroically jumps in front, but also deflects her blast back at her, and she turns into bubbles. The king is now turned into a frog, and Shrek and Fiona turn back into ogres and accept the king's blessing and have yet another happy ever after. I mean, I think it goes without saying, but the soundtrack once again was just spectacular, and the choices are very well picked, and this movie just has such great characters, action, jokes, and voice acting. To start things off with Shrek, I think he's great in this movie, and he shows just how much he loves Fiona and how far he will go for her. At the beginning, he's nervous and doesn't really fit in, and this causes a fight between him and Fiona. He wants to try and fix things, so he steals a potion, and we see he really is willing to do anything, even change who he is, and it's a big choice for him, since there's a chance he could never go back to being an ogre, living his peaceful life in the swamp. Shrek and Fiona turn to humans at one point, and when she's tricked into thinking Prince Charming is Shrek, Shrek decides to just let her go. He learns that Fairy Godmother is using a love potion on Fiona, and once Shrek is freed from prison, he is determined to get Fiona back. After defeating the Fairy Godmother, Fiona then has her chance to prove her love for Shrek and turn back into ogres so they can live their lives as the people they fell in love with. Fiona is still a solid character, and she struggles with trying to blend her life as a princess and as an ogre. She's upset at the beginning when Shrek fights with her parents, but as the movie goes on, she just wants to find Shrek and return to the swamp. When she's turned into a human and Charming shows up posing as Shrek, she can tell he's not the man she fell in love with. Thankfully, her dad sees how much she truly feels for Shrek and doesn't give her the potion, which was good to see the king be less selfish in terms of what he wanted in his daughter's life and take what she wanted into consideration instead. The king, for the most part, was just wanting to get rid of Shrek, and he was kind of forced to work with the fairy godmother to try and work in their plan of getting Fiona and Prince Charming together. And the fairy godmother threatens to take away his happily ever after unless he does what she wants. We ultimately see that, yes, while he's willing to work with the fairy godmother, he definitely sees what's right and what's wrong, and in the end ends up doing what's right in his eyes and deflecting the blast that would have hit Shrek and Fiona. The queen, however, doesn't really do much. She's there and talks to the king and tries to sway him to let Fiona do what she wants and what'll make her happy, but she's not really there a whole lot. The antagonists of Prince Charming and Fairy Godmother are so good. Prince Charming kind of sits back until Shrek turns into a human, and then he pretends to be him, until the final scenes, of course. While he was kind of full of himself, I still found Prince Charming really entertaining the entire movie. The Fairy Godmother, however, is extremely powerful and kind of evil, but is portrayed in a very happy and blissful personality since she helps make fairy tales come true. She makes tons of potions that she uses to her liking and personal gain, and just wants to give her son his happily ever after. Their goals are shown well and simple to understand, but the characters are motivated to make it a traditional fairy tale happy ending instead of ogres in a swamp with a donkey, a cat, and a gingerbread man. It's really well done that you can see the emotion and energy coming from the characters, and I think it gives the movie overall so much more life than the first one. The world building expands to far, far away, which is a pretty big kingdom, but we also get to see the fairy godmother's potion factory, the poison apple bar, and the king and queen's main castle. They still only add a few places in, but the kingdom's busy life and population make it feel bigger and more life is going on. They really scaled things up for this movie, and I think it paid off and worked so well that I can't believe they went downhill so fast after this. Shrek 2 is not only the best Shrek movie, but one of DreamWorks' best films. It keeps the genius level writing, jokes, and iconic music as the first one does, but it furthers the character's story in a fantastic way. I also enjoyed seeing all the new characters they introduced because I think they were all so well done. And Oh my god, if you haven't seen the full scene of I Need a Hero, please just go watch it. It's just so well done and does a phenomenal job of displaying the tone of the story. It's upbeat for the action parts and slows down when Fiona's dancing, and the entire time you can feel the tension because if Shrek doesn't save Fiona in time, he could lose her. Now, not only can I not recommend the first Shrek enough, but I would hope you'd continue to watch this one because this movie's jokes are a bit more diverse and probably wouldn't be put in modern movies today. And I'm honestly glad it does that because it shows that it stands by what it wants to say and it's unapologetic about it, which is part of the reason I love it. Yeah, it's a bit sexual and less kid friendly at times, but I will stand by Shrek and Shrek 2 as some of DreamWorks' best films. Well, to put it simply, I'm giving Shrek 2 a 9 out of 10 because it's that damn good. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and if you did, you can like, subscribe, and comment down below if you like this movie as well. And I hope you're all looking forward to Shrek 3, because I'm not. But until then, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all later.